Hello.
So Aaron
Yeah,
is on site this morning. He's in Manistee talking live from a customer site.
I
And
am.
he's doing a remote. How
yeah,
pretty is that?
isn't that cool that we can all be connected like this at once? So we're talking about why our customers love our VoIP system and why they choose it over traditional phone systems. And the cool thing is I have a new tool I'm using today that I can put our little talking points on the screen, which is super cool. Before we share, get on our newsletter so you don't miss any tips, because we do have tips on using the VoIP systems and security and all kinds of good stuff. So, and you'll find that under news at dstech.net. So, the first reason why so many of our customers love VoIP is cost saving. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Aaron? Yeah, traditional telecommunications was provided by analog copper circuitry, head end, very intensive cabling, cost, man hours, labor. It was all very analog, and the cost added up over time. Through the years, the large telcos never really provided a viable alternative solution. And then once the internet became more prominent, probably 10, 15 years ago, the introduction of voice over IP came into play, and that greatly reduced the overall cost of dial tone transmission or minutes, billable usage, if you will, on those kind of calls. And then you also eliminated a lot of that labor because the data network infrastructure had been built out to high-speed fiber connections across the major cities. So the cost of implementing a VoIP system is very, I don't want to say small compared to a PBX type system, but it's definitely a lot less than physically implementing a huge hardware investment. Yes.
Right. And you mentioned something in there about minutes. And I remember those giant piles of bills that that we used to get as a business, with all of the phone calls that were made and the minutes, and you were charged by the minute.
Yep.
So with VoIP, that isn't the case.
Yes and no.
Okay.
We're able to, because VoIP's lowered the sort of the ceiling on the cost of the calls. We're able to package those minutes in I don't want to call it a bundle, but it's all built in on the back end, and there's no minute billable usage. It's all kind of, we give you a large pool, never ever going to run out of those minutes, and then just go ahead and use those up as you need to. And we only bill one separate fee, or most VoIP providers bill just one standard fee
Per month, right?
per month.
Okay. Cool beans. The other having multiple sites, because we have customers that have multiple sites, and a lot of times calling between those sites would be long distance, right?
Correct. With a hosted VoIP system, those multi-location sites are considered really the next cubicle over as far as a call goes. The phone system doesn't know any better whether it's miles away or sheer feet away. So it does reduce those long distance type calls, certainly.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so next, service mobility, which in our case, our techs, when they're out and about like you are right now,
Yep.
You can actually use our phone system remotely from your cell phone, right?
Yep.
Or online.
And this is huge. I can't stress enough what we've experienced the last 16 months or so. We still get calls every day from clients asking questions about sending staff home. So with VoIP hosted systems, many platforms now have the capability to do what's called a soft phone. And essentially what that is it's a phone within a phone. I can give you kind of a glimpse here too, real quick, of what one of the ones looks like that we use. It's just basically it's an app on your smartphone that allows you to connect into your phone system, and it treats it as no different than a desk phone. So any calls coming to you, or if you're receptionist transfers a call over to your desk, that call will follow you and ring you in the field or catch you out and about. You know, there's a couple other flavors that come with this too. You know, there's the capability of sending email notification of a voicemail message. So that's another capability of outside of the office receiving sort of that real-time information of a voicemail being left. And then there's also the transcription capability of that too. So you could really read that message on site and not have to pick up that call or talk to somebody. And then finally, the sort of the last major piece of business communication that's kind of taken a large step forward is texting. Is with these soft phone apps, businesses now can incorporate their main telephone number, so their main call number, and text and receive text from it. So that's really changed a lot of remote and capability to communicate with a variety of different audiences quickly.
That's cool. That's cool. And I was holding up my phone because I'm at home and it's like I'm in the office. Dave just presses Ginny and I'm there.
Right.
So it's cool. And then I have my headset too. So, you know, when I'm on the phone with Dave, I might put my headset on and then go grab a cup of coffee while I'm talking to him.
That's like local mobility.
Yeah.
We do a lot, like, you know, I answer phone calls from our customers for service requests, etc. And the thing that I see a lot of is customers calling in and saying, like our larger customers that might have several locations and say, hey, we're all in training here in town A today. Everything needs to be forwarded to town B, our other branch. Done fairly easily. We just recently had, I want to say about 4 of our techs certified for doing our phone service because it's becoming such a big part of our business. Forwarding to other branches and forwarding to when people went home to work last year to their cell phones, like Aaron just talked about. You know, and then we change a lot of that for like holidays too. People that have emergency, plumbers come to mind, that have emergency calls.
Yeah.
Or we'll take emergency calls over weekends and holidays.
But they'll have their cell phone with them, and
right.
if they're the guy on call, right? Then they'll get we can forward it to any number, right? So that's kind of cool.
And I think a point here that needs to be emphasized, and I think Dave was touching upon it, is you know, traditionally any changes made to a phone system would have been local. Would have required a support tech to come on site to access the server, the PBX system, to make updates there on site. With a VoIP system, that can be done remotely. The majority, 99% of the changes can be done remotely and then pushed out to the
Matter
local.
of fact, our customers just email our support desk.
They do.
It gets assigned to you or Steve and gets taken care of, usually same day. It depends on how important or how important, that's not the right word.
Urgent.
Thank you. Urgent the request is, right? So and we've touched on this a little bit, but you know, some of the phone features like the texting, for example, that you mentioned. What else?
Well, I still use, I don't know if everyone uses it here at DS Tech. I still use the Zach feature because I look at faxes and what else? Voice messages.
Right. And then the texting thing I wanted to mention, Aaron, you mentioned it's voice to text, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is transcription. It'll take a recorded voicemail. So if I called you and left you a voicemail, it'll take my words and transcribe that into written words.
So when people call, this is we should do a whole thing on interesting text transcriptions. My Google ones are funny.
It's terrible.
We've had some comical ones.
My Google does that too on my Android phone or my personal, and it's it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You'll come and you'll be like, interesting. But what the cool thing that I wanted to mention about that was that when people call our help desk, if all of our operators are busy, it gets put into a ticket automatically. I mean, that's kind of cool. But anyway, that's pretty fancy. That's pretty fancy.
Yeah.
So what else can we do? We can have you can have a virtual receptionist.
Yep, you can have auto attendants in place that can filter calls out. You can have call queues in place that'll help your call handlers process calls in a timely fashion. Nowadays, you name it, you can have music on hold, custom messaging, quite a bit.
Integration with your software, like I just mentioned with our ticketing system, you know.
Yep.
It's cool stuff.
Dave was talking about Zach, which is Advanced Communicator. It's a product that we have that accompanies one of our phone systems, and that's a complete unified communication system, faxing, visual voicemail,
Chat.
quick drag drop, chat. I mean, you name it. There's a whole slew of feature sets available there. Our VoIP platform has, again, a whole slew of feature sets. I think, again, most people really like the remote portal capability of accessing the phones as opposed to having that tech spend half the day on site.
Now that you mentioned that, I think I'm going to skip to this one because we talked about this before we went live, and you mentioned, because I was like, the reliability depends on your internet connection. You know, if your internet connection is stable, you'll have stable phone system. But Aaron mentioned this very thing, that you can still get your voicemails and all that stuff, and it's still the phone calls are still being answered.
Yeah, I think one of the big gaps that I have to traverse when I do onboarding or when I engage in a potentially new customer is help them understand that phone systems have evolved considerably over the last 15 years, and instead of having that local phone server on site that if you lose power, you lose dial tone, you lose calls, callers get a busy signal. With a hosted or a VoIP system, that phone server, that piece of equipment is stored in the cloud. So there's no physical local presence. If the business loses power, that phone system still has operational. So you could still call that number, get to a voicemail, get to an auto attendant, or if it was an extended outage, we could put forwards in place and say forward to a cell phone or forward to another location to help avert those calls. The system doesn't die because it's cloud-based. It's still alive. You can still hit it. You can still do all the operations through it. 99% available. Local, it may not be. Power may be out locally. So very reliable.
Cool. Improved client interactions, and basically I think we just touched on this. You know, you stay connected with your clients all the time. I mean, we've already covered it, really, right? So is that the end of our list? Oh, I got one more.
Well, I can make a real quick point on that though, Jen.
Oh, sure.
Improved client interactions. So I'm going to jump back in time a little bit too. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, our phone systems were limited by the amount of analog lines that were connecting to them. So most businesses had maybe 3 or 4 lines coming into their facility, their building. And if they had a 5th call at that time, that call would be busy. Or if one of their staff wanted to make a call, they would not get dial tone. So kind of jumping into the improved client interactions, you got to think of it as a third step. So not only does a company like DS Tech provide an advanced solution to upgrade the communication platform of a local business, but that local business now has the capability of providing that communication platform to their clients. So in a sense, we're actually working 2 steps down to provide that high-level service to the client's clients. And what that means is if that 5th call comes in with a VoIP system, it's not going to get a busy signal. They're going to be able to take that call, respond to that client, and process that transaction. Likewise, if the business is really busy and they need to make a call, that call can be made out. There's no limit on the amount of dial tone that they have. Their service is going to be there. So they're improving their client interactions considerably. And I see this every day across the board.
Yeah, and that's cool because I do remember the old operating phone when I used to be the operator, right? And you would have a certain amount of lines, and if they were all busy, you were SOL.
Yep.
It's
kind of hard to grasp the virtual phone numbers.
It is. It is.
Because I've been, involved in this somewhat for my 3 years here. But I was involved in telephony when I was, 18 years old, right out of high school. We were doing key systems and that. And now we're like far removed from that stuff. But to understand the virtual numbers is crazy. But it like you said, there's really no limitation. If you only have 4 phones in your company, you can only make 4 phone calls, but at any one time, but you can still get calls in. So it doesn't matter how many.
Which Aaron has a story of one of our clients that didn't even know they were missing how many calls.
I won't say who.
Right. I
Dear
know.
client of ours. And it took them a little bit to come around to engaging in the potential of upgrading to a new phone system. Ultimately, I think what spurred it was the onset of the pandemic that we had recently lived through, and the ability for them to best serve their clients. And because they had to close their doors to incoming foot traffic, they had to rely on their phones very heavily, very, very heavily. Their previous phone system had a very limiting amount of dial tone, so they could only take up to 4 calls at any given time, meaning inbound, outbound, total calls. The 5th call would get busy. That was providing considerable frustration for both staff and their clients. So that's when we came in and provided a VoIP system. Their call volume since inception has more than doubled. I was actually told by the owner of the business to turn their phones off because he hears the phones ringing when she goes home at night.
Yeah.
Phones don't stop there.
That's crazy.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing to have. It means that they're busy. It means that they're very successful. It means that what service they provide is in demand. And really what that means is that's a sound of money when that phone rings.
Yeah.
So I hope they do well.
Think about the clients that were potentially lost before that.
Exactly.
Because I don't know how many times I would call some business, right, and never get to reach anybody or even able to leave a voicemail. And I'm like, oh, forget it. I'll go find someone else. Right? So that's cool. Last, which we also kind of touched on already, right? The scalability, which is being you're unlimited.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, if the business grows, it's easy to add more. If the business, changes, it's easy to take away or shift things around. Both hardware, software, and then billing are all very fluid. If I +1, it's easy. It just goes right through +1. If I -1, -1. We can actually drop ship everything, and all they have to do is unbox and plug in.
Super
Makes it
cool.
easy.
All right. I'm not exactly positive what our topic is next week, but we're still talking phones. So if you have questions, drop a comment and we'll be sure we cover that topic. If you have questions about voice over IP. Very cool stuff. Thank you, Dave and Aaron.
Thanks, Jen.
Don't forget to hit our website and get on our newsletter.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks. Great day.